Christophe, thank you for joining us.
It's my pleasure.
Wellness, self-care, there's a lot to talk about. What is driving this increasing emphasis on self-care, personal health management? What are people waking up to?
Well, I think there's a lot of things. In my keynotes, most of the time I talk about three specific things. One is definitely technology, in a sense that there's more that we can do. There's a lot more data that we can gather ourselves, right? But because of technology, and not just in healthcare, but in the entirety of our lives, we are more empowered. We have that habit now to do things ourselves. And I think in self-care as well, you see this drive, this wanting to do more yourself. And I think that is one of the things technology has changed the habits of people. The second thing definitely has to do with the psychology of people. I think in today's society, what we see is that the basic and the emotional needs are largely fulfilled. I mean, we can say that in Western world, Middle Eastern, more and more in the Asian world as well. We see that these basic and emotional needs are fulfilled. And then according to the Maslow pyramid, the hierarchy of needs, people want to become the best version of themselves. It's self-actualization, it's about aspirations. And so that best version of themselves is also driving people to, I want to become that best version of myself. And I want to do whatever it takes to do that.
Do you think COVID accelerated that?
COVID definitely accelerated that. It's one of the, so this trend I call healthenthusiasm. It's the title.
Healthenthusiasm? I love it.
It's the enthusiasm that people have to become healthy and happy. And it's the title of my first book, actually. And in there, I largely explain how that is, that people are more active than ever in their health and in their happiness. And so that healthenthusiasm is driven by those aspirations. And then because of that, and that is the third reason,
because of the healthenthusiasm, so many reasons.
Well, the book is 400 pages, so I can talk for hours only on that subject. But I think the very important reason as well is that because all of these people are now looking into solutions, there's a lot of businesses that say, oh, but we can do something with this. We can actually change our products into what I call transformation, where make people feel better in a sense. So you have the psychological, you have the economical, and you have the technological evolutions that basically driven the whole society into wanting to do more for themselves, becoming the best version of themselves.
Do we feel more vulnerable as well after COVID, that at the end of the day, it's you and your immunity?
I think that has passed. I think it's, I personally would have thought that it would have, sustained a little bit longer, but I think most of us have forgotten a lot about COVID. Except if you had a financial debt because of it. But besides that, I think people are already living largely their lives.
Absolutely right.
We're back to normal.
Absolutely. It's a Health Leaders Forum. We were talking about COVID like it's a book on the shelf.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just a case study.
Yeah. And the same goes for personal habits. It might be that maybe some small things are still there and people are a little bit more conscious about their health. But I would almost say that we are back to baseline, maybe a little bit higher than before COVID.
How is the concept of self-care evolving? What did it mean before, and where do you see it going?
Well, it's a difficult question. I think self-care is one of the most important things to me. It's really about taking care of yourself and having that empowerment. And it's all about aspirations. It's about what do I inspire in life. When we used to think about health and self-care, it was all about, I would say, better sleep, more exercise, mental health, those kind of things. And more we start realizing that we need to have a goal because those are the needs, right? And I think what we see now is that people become more aspirational in the sense that they say, I want to have less energy. I want to have more energy. I want to...
maybe they want less energy. We can't judge. Right?
Yeah, maybe. But I want to feel less stressed, for example. And they change their habits in life because I have that aspiration. I always give that example. Imagine a 35, 40-year-old woman, just take somebody, and she has 2 kids. She's on the brink of another jump in her career. She's still with her partner. Her parents still living. She has some contacts with her friends from university, maybe some new friends from school. She wants to be that good leader in the company. She wants to be a good colleague, a good mom, a good friend, a good daughter, a good whatever you have. For all that, she wants to have energy. And so people will take care of themselves because they realize that if they do so, they can be happier because they can fulfill all those roles.
They can do more with the time they have.
Yeah, and that is the kind of new insights that I see, is that people are more conscious about what is the advantage if I take care of myself. And that is what I call the aspiration that people realize today a lot more than, let's say, 5 to 10 years ago.
I think you point to something very powerful in this expanding field of potential when it comes to the technologies, the devices that are available for self-care. It's an expanding realm of possibility.
Yeah.
In a sense, though, it sort of makes you wonder whether self-care requires you to be an early adopter and to go as far as possible. There's so much one can do now. But frankly, it's almost put some pressure on the individual to track more, intervene more.
Well, one thing that is changing, because I heard you say it puts pressure on people, which has been the case for the last 5 years. And this is also something that we see changing. Because if I talk aspirations, most of the time it's about improving, right? Aspirations, it's about best version, is about improving. But I don't think that's no longer the case. People are looking at aspirations in a different way. So it's no longer just about improving. Sometimes it's just about accepting. Sometimes it's about enjoying. Sometimes it's about preventing. And so it's not always, in becoming the best version. Sometimes it's okay to be not okay. Sometimes it's okay to be just okay. And that is a different mindset that we have, maybe a little bit because of COVID, because that's where things changed a little bit, in my opinion. But it's no longer just about improving. Like, one of the things I always say to healthcare leaders, whether it's pharma or healthcare institutions, is that don't address patients as if they were warriors, as if they need to fight. Because sometimes they haven't even accepted the fact that they're sick. And so one of the aspirations of a patient sometimes is just, I need to, accept this situation first before you talk to me as if I need to fight or something. And I think this is something that has changed within people, not yet within the healthcare institutions per se. But it's a radical change and a realization that basically if you over aspirational, if you always want to improve, you might do damage to yourself, right? Because you don't accept the situation, you're not in the moment anymore, you're always thinking about it. And this is something we've seen recently, I think, and I can continue talking.
Please, this is fascinating.
I think it was in 2018 or 19, it was the first time that in the global happiness reports that addictive behavior to wanting to be healthy or healthier was considered one of the reasons why people were unhappy. And that changed something. I mean, it was like the same level as addiction to drugs or alcohol, what have you, or cigarettes, what have you. And then we started realizing that we need to be healthy about our aspirations to actually be healthy. So this is something that is changing dramatically now. It's not just about being better and better and better. It's something just about being good the way you are.
You have just blown my mind.
Okay.
It is amazing. It's also very empowering to be able to pick and choose what you're ready to do, how far you're ready to go, to be satisfied with where you are, to know that there's potential you can tap into. It's a bit like the self-care version of FOMO versus JOMO.
Exactly.
Fear of missing out versus joy of missing out.
Exactly.
Or whether you have to be on every single social media platform at all times, or whether you're satisfied with where you are here or there. This is actually a relief.
Yeah. The only thing is that, because we're talking self-care and rather healthcare congress, I think one of the important things there is that the healthcare institutions and the healthcare providers need to realize this as well. Because you can say to a patient, you have this medical need, you need to do this, but it's not necessarily because they have that need that they will adhere by that solution. If that solution does not fit their aspirations, it will never work.
And this is very important, this element and this message of human will. It makes sense for people driving the technologies to be pushing the frontiers. That is who they are and what they must do. But are people ready to intervene in their genomics a certain way, adopt AI a certain way? But I also find this solves a really important equation that's been circling around this conference, which is, what are people comfortable with? How do you get them comfortable with the next frontiers of technology, the use of their data in the right fashion? And sometimes understanding where and how people are ready is the key to unlocking them, achieving the next step of being ready to share the data, to do certain things. It's just there's a certain, some people are further along that than others at the get-go.
Yeah,
it's a comfort level. So from a business perspective, how do you see companies leveraging the self-care trend in a way that's healthy, holistic, and also creates new value, new forms of economic value?
Well, I can list you 1,000 different examples that's most likely many people in healthcare never heard of, but which are very much dominant and present everywhere. And that is, I think my favorite example is the car industry, the mobility industry. I think it was 2017 or 18 where at the same time at a Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas, I think it was Hyundai as well as Mercedes-Benz launched the Fit and Health car, the Fit and Health cockpits, depending on what company it was. And what that car did, and I'll talk about Mercedes specifically, is it was a Maybach Mercedes-Benz, and it's interacted with your wearables, with your agenda, with the way that you've slept, with the traffic, and basically when you are in the car and you feel stressed, or the car knows that you'll be late for a meeting, or they can feel based on the sensors in the steering wheel that you're not in a great situation, they will adapt the conditions of the car. So temperature, music, lighting, anything, maybe even a massage.
Chill you out. Wow.
It would chill you out. So basically, their purpose is to, if you drive for 3-4 hours, you can be really exhausted or not, fresh at least. But their purpose is to make you feel healthier, happier, better,
this is
whatever.
Very interesting.
When you get out of that car after 4 hours. So that is just one example of
automobile homeostasis. Yeah. This is very interesting. And this is real? This is happening?
This is happening. Wow. I mean, every car manufacturer is focused on health and well-being. Everyone. Wow. I always say, and I exaggerate a little bit when I say this, but the focus from driving experience has disappeared, and we're now focused on the health experience, because within a couple of years we won't be driving anymore. So what would you do with a car? You'll take care of your health. So that's kind of like it's an exaggerated, but it is true in the sense that
it's not that exaggerated. It's a differentiator now, but in the future, people will think it's standard.
A company and any type of industry that takes away from health will no longer be, of any value for customers. At least you need to make sure that somehow, first of all, you need to make sure what the impact is on health of what you offer them and the products that you provide them. But you need to make sure that you do not take away from their health, maintain their health. And potentially, like Mercedes-Benz or Hyundai or many others are doing, you should be helping them, make them feel better, a little healthier, a little bit happier. This is the value that we that now customers want from businesses. Because my new book is coming out, and it's really all about trends in the transformation economy. It's about how transformations are becoming radically important, and how every business is moving into that space.
Into the space where they help you transform you.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. It's no longer about digital transformation. It's about customer transformation, because they will help you feel better.
I pay you to transform me. It's like the Internet of Things, but the Internet of health of things.
Exactly.
Or the Internet of Things and health.
Healthy things or something.
Healthy. Yeah. You healthy with things. Yeah. Things you and health.
And the whole industry, this is what the value will be based on. And in my book, I explain how you could use aspirations. There's 24 aspirations that I researched in the past 4 years.
Can't wait to read this.
Well, you should. Yeah. It's available around the world, so it should be easily to buy, whether digitally or physically.
And what's the title again?
Trends in the Transformation Economy.
Trends in the Transformation Economy. So in this transformation economy, we have certain givens now, and one of them is wearables. Yeah. You're wearing a watch that is smart, not dumb. Mm-hmm. What is it telling you? What are you tracking?
Well, everyone can use it for their own purpose.
Sure. And what do you choose? I'm curious. What are your preferences? What transformation are you asking this watch for?
To me, one of the things is I never really get tired. Unless I really am tired. After 3-4 weeks, if I don't go to bed early enough and I don't sleep regularly, I might just crack and fall down and sleep for 2-3 days. It's been the story of my life, because I never feel stressed and I never feel tired. Those are the two things.
Those are your default settings? You don't feel those things? Like, how did you get to that? We'd like to understand.
I don't know. It's always been like, I like being under pressure. I don't know, whatever. Or like, I have the energy to continue whatsoever. But so how do I use it primarily? I try to make sure that I go to bed at the same time. I check whether I slept enough. I make sure that I don't drink too much alcohol or non-alcohol actually before going to bed, because that changes the heart rhythm, etc. I can see whether my heart rate variability changed over time, which might indicate that I'm getting a little bit sick, and then I'll make sure that I sleep a little bit more. So for me, apart from, the movement and logging everything related to movement, etc., to me, the most interesting thing is sleep, because it's what really, is a bit of a, I wouldn't say a danger, but it's something that I need to be aware of, that I sleep enough regularly and that I have a good night's sleep.
So that's it. You self-regulate. You transform
Yeah.
yourself by self-regulating that one
Yeah.
thing that you know is not just a vulnerability, but an asset and a great input for you.
Yeah, totally.
So where do you see this going in terms of the balance between more and more self-care, more data, more wearables, and your relationship or one's relationship with a doctor?
Yeah.
Is this stuff you bring to them? Do they ask you? What's the interest? Do devices direct us more now than medical professionals?
I have a very, very long answer for this.
Please.
I'll see how I can make it as crisp, as short as possible. But I think there's a couple of things. One is, first of all, I think it's the greatest opportunity and the greatest threat for healthcare.
The wearables. And
the self-care trend in
self-care
general.
trend. Okay.
It's the greatest opportunity. I'll start with that first, because people have never been more actively involved in their health. And if we don't do something with it, we miss out on the biggest opportunity that we ever seen in healthcare. If you want to make a healthier population, this is the time. And it will radically even increase in the next couple of years. So we need to take that opportunity. However, it comes with a couple of challenges, maybe even threats, in the sense that there's primary care and specialty care. I'll make the distinctions between two. The primary care, in my opinion, will radically change. I think
because your basic monitoring and checkups are happening so real
their
time.
role will change.
Yeah.
So first of all, they will need to be able to understand what's happening in self-care, which is very hard because so much is happening, and even the patients themselves, the people themselves, don't understand it. Let alone at the first line, whether it's physicians, pharmacists, sick funds, health insurers, whatever, can get a hold of everything that's happening. So that is a huge challenge. But what it might also bring is a huge influx of patients with questions. Because I've seen this, I've noticed this. The healthcare system regulates itself by not, diagnosing too much certain diseases because it might overwhelm the system. What we will have is an overwhelming of the system because there will be diagnoses everywhere. Self-diagnosis, whether or not correct, but in the future there will be more correct than today, let's put it that way. So, but it will put a pressure on the first line heavily, and their role they have to play. But some tasks that they do today, like the diagnosis, will be moved out of their role. So what will their new role be? So I think the biggest disruption because of self-care will be in the primary care setting. And then obviously as well, if you have more diagnosis, it will move into specialty care at some point, which, as we know, we're understaffed, they're overworked. It takes months and months and months sometimes to see specialists. And this will only become worse for many reasons. But the thing is that we need to make sure that AI, which could be helpful in this situation, is integrated faster than self-care is growing. Because otherwise we will have this huge bottleneck that already exists today will become even bigger tomorrow.
This is very interesting. When you were speaking, I was like, is that the WebMD effect on steroids?
Yeah,
where
exactly.
People can diagnose themselves and you get more and you get crazy ideas, some of them rational, some irrational as a patient.
Yeah.
But then you want to see that specialist. It drives demand, it sounds like, overall demand for health services,
and
but just different ones. And those providers have to be able to read your data to know what's going on in there.
Yeah.
Just a very different skill set, almost like a different org chart in terms of the size and shape. What's your most exciting field when you look out across what's transforming medicine now? What are you excited about? What gives you hope and enthusiasm that overall we're moving in the right direction?
I would say hope and health enthusiasm, but
yes. And
I don't know actually. I think this is a very difficult one to answer.
Because you're not hopeful, or because you don't know which one to choose?
I think what is hopeful, again, is the fact that people are more engaged. To me, that is the most hopeful thing. I think what we need to have is a little bit more care and a little less health science, in a sense that right now I sometimes feel that the balance is very much focused on science parts, and the system owns the science, knows the science, pushes it down onto patients.
Very interesting.
And in that way, sometimes the care is, if I may say so, I'm a little bit blunt here, and I exaggerate a little bit, but the care is often forgotten or not present in the same way. Mainly because there's a lot of pressure, time pressure, and so forth in the healthcare system, which allows you to don't allow you to be as empathic and caring as we should be. I think if I look at the future of healthcare, I hope that AI, and there's great promise there, that AI can either take away a lot of the routine tasks from physicians so that they can actually spend some more time on being empathic or caring. At the same time, I also think that we are now in a phase of generative AI. I think within 3-4 years, we'll be talking about emotive AI, which actually will mimic the emotion of a human. And I think in many cases that will be weird and we don't want it, but in many other cases, it will be very much welcomed. Because if you can't get access to healthcare, or if you don't get, an empathic answer from your physicians, it could be damaging for the motivation of a patient. While if we automate a part of that, or mimic a part of that empathy, I think it could be great for patients. And I think so. I think the caring part will, thanks to technology in two different ways, will augment, and this will greatly benefit anything related to health management, healthcare, self-care, whatsoever.
You're the first person who's made me think about the social psychology of the future of healthcare. And you do see now devices, I want to get it right, the robot, I have to look up the company name, but there's actually now a robotics company that is essentially deployed, a cute, sweet little robot deployed in waiting rooms to help children relax on their way into a clinical setting.
Sure.
Now, that was just one recognition of the stress levels of a child going into a clinical setting. But that sensitivity that you're talking about isn't really widely programmed in products as we know them. You see that changing, or you see it missing and you're concerned that we won't get to it?
No, it'll come, I think. The main thing is that empathy will happen in healthcare in the next 5 to 10 years. And I believe that if we're talking as much about generative AI today, I think that I think emotive AI will really kickstart or make digital health explode, because that will be the huge difference maker. We always say healthcare is a human business. We need human interactions, but I really think that many of the so-called human interaction that we're having today can be replaced by a human-like interaction that has empathy. We don't need to think that humans have the monopoly of empathy, because that is not the case. I mean, we can easily mimic or even do better than many other human beings simply by using technology.
So it's Robin the robot from Expert Technologies that goes in and, in a fun way, it's not generative or emotive AI necessarily, but this adorable robot makes kids more comfortable going into a doctor's office or a surgery. But this opens up worlds of possibility, not just AI, gamification, or now that we can monitor how your stress levels and heart rate variability might be in a setting, how to bring that back down, what the car manufacturers are learning about how to keep you cool in the cockpit of car, transferring elsewhere. So this is a massive convergence, it sounds like.
It is.
Speaking of massive convergence, we're sitting here at Abu Dhabi Global Healthcare Week. You're an author, you are very well traveled. As per other settings you've been in, what have you noticed that's unique about this one?
Well, I was very impressed when I arrived. Everything is, super, super well organized, which, by the way, is not always the case in every event. So that was impressive by itself. I mean, the exhibition there's some stands that are super impressive. I think the topics are interesting. I think they're the ones that you see on many conferences. I think what really makes a difference are three things. One is the the authority of speakers here. I think we have the top notch of the speakers around the world that speak about certain stuff that you maybe hear on other conferences as well, but they are actually doing it. They're not, we should be doing it. They say we are doing this. So the feel is totally different. And also, I mean, we are here in Abu Dhabi, and the general feel that you have, and I think it was mentioned yesterday on the stage, is that where in other parts of the world it would take 10 years to do something, we can do it in 5. And this is the mentality that you feel as well. Besides the fact that many of them are already doing things, you can feel that they are making things happen here. It's not dreaming, it's not what should be happening, they're just doing it. And that to me is from an emotional feeling kind of point of view, this makes this conference really exceptional.
Christophe, it's been a huge pleasure talking to you. I dare say it's been transformative. I feel transformed. Thank you so much for your time.